Fairy rings in the lawns of Meadowbrook Estates, not on Karen's watch. Armed with her clipboard, HOA Karen patrolled the streets of Meadowbrook Estates, issuing citations for unauthorized fungal growths. Karen noticed them while she was out for her early morning power walk. Rings of mushrooms had popped up overnight in several residents' yards. She frowned at them and immediately went home to fetch her clipboard. "They must be destroyed," she told Mrs. Henderson, as she handed her an official HOA citation. "It's bad luck," Mrs. Henderson warned. "I make my own luck," Karen said, "and it's up to me to make sure this neighborhood stays in compliance with the HOA regulations." With that, she stepped into the middle of the ring and started stamping on all the mushrooms. In an instant, Karen was transported to the Fey realm. She stared around her in wonder. It looked just like her neighborhood, but more sparkly and iridescent. Cotton candy pink clouds floated in the sky. The lawns were a brilliant shade of lavender. The air smelled like vanilla and fresh morning dew. Mrs. Henderson no longer stood on her doorstep. In her place was a glimmering fairy with long ash-white hair and shimmering dragonfly wings. But the fairy version of Mrs. Henderson looked just as angry. Karen took a deep breath and raised her clipboard. But before she could speak, the fairy snapped her fingers. Karen began to uncontrollably dance the Macarena. "What's happening?" Karen asked. The fairy smirked. "You will remain here in our realm and dance until you have learned your lesson." "I'm sorry," Karen said. "I didn't realize it was a portal. I just thought it was an aesthetic blight." "Remember that," the fairy said. She snapped her fingers again and Karen found herself back in Meadowbrook Estates. Karen swayed, then sat down heavily on Mrs. Henderson's damp lawn. "I warned you," Mrs. Henderson said, with a twinkle in her eye. Karen nodded. "No further action is required," she said. And from that moment on, all fairy rings were considered protected landscape features, according to the official HOA charter. Like and subscribe to see more stories like this.